He didn't flinch when they called him a fraud. He didn't blink when the bailiff tried to drag him up. And when the prosecutor raised his voice, pointing right at him across the courtroom floor, he still didn't speak. He just sat there, perfectly still, perfectly silent, as if waiting for something only he knew was coming. Something no one else expected. At first glance, the man in the back of the courtroom looked like a ghost. An old military coat hugged his frame, worn smooth at the elbows, buttons dulled by time and use. His hair was silver, close cropped like it had always been. One hand rested on his knee, the other held a small, folded American flag, edges frayed, corners soft from years of being held and buried. They didn't call him by name. They called him the defendant, accused of impersonating a decorated war veteran. The charges? Wearing unauthorized medals, using a military rank in public, lying about serving. The courtroom buzzed with quiet disbelief. Some people turned away, others shook their heads, and yet, no one truly looked at him. No one saw the scar beneath his collarbone, just barely visible above his undershirt. No one saw the tremble in his fingers, not from fear, but from something older, older than the prosecutor, older than this courtroom, something that smelled like gunpowder and desert heat and death. His name was Master Sergeant Daniel Rourke, Afghanistan, 2004. He had crawled across a minefield to rescue 2 wounded soldiers. His lungs had filled with smoke from the burning Humvee behind him. Shrapnel took half his hearing. The blast left a dent in his right shin. He could never quite walk evenly on again. His citation had gone missing after a fire at the records facility in St. Louis. The medals? Reissued by his unit, signed by a colonel who died of cancer 2 years later. But he never told anyone that. He never tried to clear it up. When asked, he'd say, "It's not about the medal. It's about the men." Men who hadn't come home. Men who now lived folded inside that flag. The prosecutor pressed harder, his voice louder. He waved papers, documents, rules. He said Rourke had no business wearing what he wore, that he was dishonoring real veterans. The courtroom grew tighter with silence. One woman dabbed her eyes. That a young man in uniform shifted in his seat, jaw clenched. Still, Rourke didn't move. That he didn't argue. That he didn't plead. He simply looked at the ceiling, as if remembering something no one in that room had the heart to imagine. And then, something shifted. From the back, a man in dress blue stood up. A Marine. That he stepped forward slowly, cleared his throat, and said, requesting permission to address the court. The judge hesitated. The prosecutor rolled his eyes, but the man kept speaking. "I served under Master Sergeant Rourke in Kabul. That medal on his chest? I pinned it there myself, with a shaking hand after he dragged me out of the dirt while bleeding out." The room went still. Another soldier stood up, then another, then a woman in uniform near the back, Army Medical Corps, no shouting, no grand speeches, just presence. One by one, veterans rose to their feet. Each one had known him. Each one had a story. Each one had a scar with his name written quietly behind it. And then, before the prosecutor could say another word, he did. Something no one expected. He lowered his eyes, stepped forward, and said, "Your Honor, I withdraw the charges." But he didn't stop there. He turned to Rourke, took a breath, and whispered, "Permission to salute, sir." Rourke didn't answer. He just stood, slowly, painfully, and nodded. What followed wasn't just a salute. It was an earthquake of silence. The entire courtroom, standing, hands to brows, eyes wet, not because he had won, but because he had never asked. 2. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is remain silent while being doubted, because he knows who he is. The loudest honor is often carried in quiet hands. You don't measure a soldier by the shine of his medal, but by the number of people who would stand for him when he doesn't ask them to. Outside, the reporters waited, but Rourke didn't stop to talk. He walked down the steps, flag still in hand, and disappeared into the quiet. No headlines, no interviews, just the wind and the weight of a salute that had come far too late. If this story moved you, tell us where you're watching from. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe for more stories that honor those who walk silently but carry the world.